This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. This is John Bailey. This is White Plains Week, the city news roundup show for 16 years. And I'm joined by Jim Benerofe, the dean of the White Plains School of Journalism, and by Peter Katz, the anchor for all seasons. And Jim Benerofe has the headlines.
And here are the headlines for White Plains Week of September 9th, 2016. White Plains prepares to observe the 15th remembrance of those who perished in the World Trade Center attack. Common Council approves a settlement agreement with the French-American School of New York. Peter Katz and I will have an on-the-scene report. Gedney Association issues a strong statement opposing Common Council refusing to table the settlement vote for study. School starts in White Plains for over 7,200 students. School district reports that Superintendent of Schools Dr. Paul Freed is on extended sick leave, but still under contract. Announces that Timothy Connors, the interim superintendent, is leaving at the end of September. Reports the district is conducting interviews for a new interim superintendent of schools. City is sued by owners of Soundview Manor for delay in issuing demolition permit. We will have our ongoing update feature on the election campaign, Hillary and Friends and Trump Today. And the dogs hit the pool.
Thank you, Jim. And going to the White Plains Week Rollo Newsreel March of Time. This is 9/11 week. We are 2 days away from September 11th, when 15 years ago the World Trade Center towers were attacked and thousands perished, including these 6 White Plains residents who were memorialized in the monument at Liberty Park, where on Sunday at 9 a.m. there will be a memorial service and remembrance. It's open to the public, 9 a.m. Liberty Park, and flags will fly at half-mast. And on Tuesday, there will be a blood drive at City Hall. It is something you can do in remembrance of them. And, of course, in White Plains, there was a big news week because the city took up the Ridgeway Country Club FASNY proposal and approved a settlement that was proposed by the school and worked out with the city, and that is the stipulation of settlement. And then, in the next slide, please, they are going to present an amended site plan. Judge Lefkowitz is going to has given the city 14 days to tell them what they need to really include it in their site plan.
And as the site plan is reviewed, the judge will be monitoring it. They will have to make monthly reports to the judge as to what's happening on this.
You and Jim were there.
Indeed, John, and it was a full house in the Common Council chamber, so full, in fact, that some people couldn't get in and had to watch from outside in the hall. Chairs were set up there along with a television monitor. The regular monthly council meeting had been moved from Monday to Tuesday, September 6th, because of the Labor Day holiday weekend.
Although members of the public were not allowed to speak on the FASNY issue during the regular televised council meeting because there was no formal public hearing, Plenty was said during the Citizens to be Heard session held before the real council meeting started.
One last word I'd like to underscore: shame. Shame on you, Mr. Roach, for presiding over the most scurrilous process in recent memory, in my entire memory of being a resident Eglinton my whole life. Shame on you and the council members, Kirkpatrick, Martin, and Smeda, for turning your back on the citizens and taxpayers in the south end of the city. My only consolation is that 4 of you will face the voters in 14 months.
I'm speaking on behalf of White Plains Neighbors Act, a group that started in December and has since grown to thousands of members with over 1,200, I'm counting, Facebook page alone. We have been asking you to stop using our tax dollars to fight a school and a park that we all want. And I'm happy and relieved to see that we could be on the verge of a solution to this costly litigation. A solution that will give White Plains a huge park and a top-notch school. This could be a huge win-win for the city and the residents. This settlement is a chance to stay the costly litigation and the threat of a multi-million damages suit and give a city a park and a great school.
During the regular council meeting, the council members made statements explaining why they'd be voting the way they did. Here's a sampling.
I cannot vote in favor of this proposed stipulation. In my judgment, a lawsuit commenced by FASNY should be concluded in the courthouse where it started, where it should be vigorously defended.
This is not a win-win situation because it is a rash project or proposal and therefore is irresponsible. I am not a lawyer, but I can say that these agreements we have here today doesn't make any sense. Not to mention what kind of precedent we are setting for future lawsuits against the city. My vote is no.
To is, why would we want to continue litigation on a proposal that the applicant, FASNY, is no longer pursuing? FASNY has the right to submit a new application pursuant to the law. That's a fact. This stipulation merely provides for a standstill on existing litigation in state court and prevents the filing of a case in federal court.
We're going to go through the secret process and follow the laws of the state of New York, including the hearing component. All those things are going to happen. And if we decide that, you know what, it doesn't work on Hathaway, and I have formed no conclusion on that, we're going to have new traffic studies that are going to follow that issue. But if we reach the conclusion that, no, this doesn't work, and we vote it down, we go right back to where we are today. We still have our appeal, we still have the case that we put together, we still have the course we have to pursue. But if we come to a point where there is an approval of a project, not necessarily the one that's being put in tonight, but whatever we get to at the end of the process, if there is an approval, then the money that would have been spent on the appeal and the trial would still be in the city coffers. So I'm supporting the stipulation, but we are not giving up our appeal. We're not giving up our rights in the other action. And I can tell you right now, I have no opinion on this. We're just going to move forward with it and go through the process and reach the conclusion that the council reaches. So, having said that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Robinson?
No.
Mr. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Putin?
No.
Mrs. Pullman?
No.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Smeda?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
After the 4-3 vote by the council, which approved the resolution okaying the stipulation which brings to a halt FASNY's lawsuit, at least while the city reviews the scaled-back proposal, Jim Benerofe talked with John Botti, who is a member of the French-American Schools Board of Trustees.
Right, so how does the school feel about tonight's decision?
Well, you know, it's been a long 5.5 years where we've been through the most rigorous process in Westchester County history. And, you know, we're relieved to be looking forward and to put this litigation and counter litigation and frankly wastefulness behind us. The school dramatically reduced its plan. We've reduced the traffic impact a further 42%, the building square footage 30-something percent, number of parking spaces 30%, and the student enrollment from 950 students to 640 students, which is a 30-something percent decrease as well. That being said, we also, as an act of good faith, a further act of good faith, we've recorded a conservation easement last Monday in the Westchester County Court Clerk's office, and it is now the largest privately held conservation easement in southern Westchester, south of 287, and it's also the first in White Plains. Prior to last week, there were 0 acres in conservation in White Plains, and our 51 acres put White Plains on the map. This will be a public park, publicly accessible with over a mile of bike paths, which will actually benefit White Plains High School students and area residents, that they could safely traverse the property to and from school without having to go onto the more busy roads, both pedestrian and bicycle. So it's, you know, we were hopeful that this was a reasonable proposal, reasonable plan, a great compromise for the city. We were hopeful to have a unanimous 7 out of 7 vote, but we had the required 4 votes tonight, and we're grateful for those leaders of the city that demonstrated leadership, that frankly, you know, stood up to the special interests of a very powerful neighborhood that is, you know, hell-bent on defeating us at any cost.
How long do you think it'll take them to make some kind of decision now?
Well, the benefit of what's going on right now, that what just got approved tonight, is now it's court ordered. It's under the supervision of the court. There's a timetable that the court will be enforcing.
And as we said, they have to make monthly reports to the judge as to how the progress is going on reviewing the new site plan.
Yeah, and one thing that came in over the transom just yesterday was a video from the Jaffes in the south end of White Plains, Aaron Jaffe took a video of the Hathaway Lane Heather Bloom intersection at Bryant, and this is what it looked like on Tuesday morning.
Now, this was during the school opening hours.
That's
around
right.
7:20 a.m.
Right.
And the point of the video was that Mr. Jaffe wanted to show that traffic does get backed up on Bryant.
Right.
Now,
this is Heather Bloom we're looking at.
Well, but
which
the
Hathaway connects to it.
Yeah, the main street, though, out there is Bryant Avenue. And
that runs into North
that
Street.
runs into North Street.
Right.
And it's a route that's followed when people want to get to the high school in time for classes. And the concern is that with the Fasney situation, somehow that will introduce additional traffic into this intersection.
Right. Some of
which might or might not come down some of the neighborhood streets. Now, of course, as the site plan review proceeds, there will be traffic studies done to see whether intersections will be overtaxed. Each intersection would be graded, and the traffic engineers will decide whether the service is adequate.
They need to do that now to survey the present school traffic.
Well, typically that is what is done. When any site plan is submitted where there may be a traffic issue, studies are ordered, measurements are taken, cars are counted, and then the anticipated traffic flow is added on top of what the actual numbers
they
are.
have to, the school in their study that they submit with this new site plan that we're going to consider now, they have to give us a real accurate count of how many cars from employees of the school are going to go in there, as well as the students.
Developers will tell you.
That's what they need to do.
Developers will tell you that any traffic numbers they submit to the city are really accurate. So,
of course, that's why we really need to be stringent on what that traffic study requires. So, what do we think about this?
Well, I think that the proposal is greatly reduced. It really is almost what I would call a relatively small project at this point. They're down to 630 students. I think it's even more comparable to what the club was when it was in full swing, and that's what a lot of people do not seem to understand about traffic. And I will point out that I live in the Gedney neighborhood in fairly close proximity to this. And I don't think that at this size, the school is going to be that much of a traffic issue. Mm-hmm. I think at the bigger size that it was, but I do think, and I have said from the beginning, that I thought that entering the property from the Ridgeway side was appropriate.
This could be called the Benerofe plan.
Yeah.
Well, there's still plenty of opposition to this in the neighborhood. In fact, John, you received an awful lot of email traffic from residents, and you've posted a lot of them on your website, WPCNR.com. And one would expect that as the public hearing process continues, there will be public hearings on this revised proposal, however it turns out. We're going to hear a lot of opposition. So here we are into what, year number 6 of this with the FASB
and I will
project?
point out that there has never been a proposed development that has taken this long to decide. You know, it doesn't matter, so to speak, what happens, except that the city needs to make a decision, and they probably should have made a decision a long time ago.
Now we have the court saying you're going to make a decision now, so we will see, and we'll be reporting on this. Yeah. So you know what else is going on around town.
But just want to say it should take about 6 months, according to the judge's timetable in the stipulation of settlement. About 6 months before they vote. Well, there's a presidential campaign going on, isn't there?
Indeed, there is, and it's heating up. White Plains figured prominently on the national scene because on Thursday of this week, Hillary Clinton held a news conference right at the airport, Westchester County Airport, in which she talked about what had happened Wednesday night of this week, which was a forum which took place on the aircraft carrier Intrepid, dealing with the military and dealing with security, in which she appeared for the first half hour, and then Donald Trump appeared on the same stage for the second half hour. This was televised on NBC and on their cable network, MSNBC. Matt Lauer was the host, and Matt Lauer from the Today Show received tremendous criticism for his handling of it. It was said that he was very unfair to Hillary Clinton, and he cowered in the confrontation with Donald Trump, which wasn't much of a confrontation, in that he kept Hillary focused on the email issue for about a third of the time that she was on stage. And then on Trump, when Trump made obviously false statements, Matt Lauer did not challenge any of Trump's supposed facts.
That has happened a lot, not just with Mr. Lauer.
One thing that Trump focused on in this appearance was his admiration for Vladimir Putin of Russia. It turns out that despite what Trump said, Vladimir Putin denies having called Trump a brilliant man. It turns out that in translation, Putin used a Russian word which means brilliant in the sense of bright or colorful. And what he really was saying, according to Putin, was that Trump is not intellectually brilliant, but is flamboyant and colorful.
Right. Well, Mr. Putin is sort of made an intriguing commentary there inadvertently.
Yeah. Trump also made comments about one of his security briefings, saying that he could tell from what he called the body language of the briefers that they were clearly opposed to the policies of the Obama administration. Members of the security community have come forward to say that they are carefully trained not to express any body language when doing security and intelligence briefings. And they certainly never take positions on the policies of an administration.
Oh, certainly not. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this campaign continues, and
60 days.
Gary Johnson, the Libertarian presidential candidate, suddenly catapulted to national headlines because he was being interviewed on a program on MSNBC. Morning Joe is the name of the program. And a columnist, Mike Barnacle, who used to be with the Boston Globe and is now part of this program, was on the interview panel when Gary Johnson appeared. And Mike Barnacle asked him what he would do about Aleppo. And Gary Johnson said, "What's Aleppo?" He had no clue that Aleppo was the focal point of the horrors unfolding in Syria.
He did not know.
Had no clue as to what Aleppo was. This is where civilians have been massacred. This is where refugees are trying to get their lives together.
And a political football. A political football between Russia and the United States.
So the campaign goes on and on and on.
It will end in 60 days, maybe.
Maybe.
60 days.
Yeah, on a local level, we have campaigns here on the program People to Be Heard, seen on these same cable stations, and also on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com and on YouTube. This week we interview George Latimer, who is running for re-election to the state senate from the 37th district.
Yes, and the Julie Killian interview, Julie who ran against him, ran last night, and you can see that on White Plains Community Media and later on WPCNR. Now, news from the school district. Could we have the interim superintendent, please? It was announced after a executive session Monday night that the school board has announced that Timothy Connors, who is the current interim superintendent, subbing for Dr. Paul Freed, is not returning. He will leave the district at the end of September. And Michelle Schoenfeld of the Board of Clerk to the Board of Education said that the school district is now interviewing for a new interim superintendent. And she said that Dr. Paul Freed, on your right, superintendent of schools, is still under contract, but he is now on sick leave.
And we don't know the nature of the illness, but apparently it's got to be pretty serious because he's been out for what, 3 months now? Is it?
Yes, Mr. Connors came on board early June, and he's been with us June, July, August, and now through September.
Into September, yeah.
And remains to be seen how this is going to develop. And we wish Dr. Freed
we wish him well.
All the best. Now that we have settled or agreed to a settlement based on conditions of the FASD lawsuit, we're lacking lawsuits, and another one just developed last week. The owners of Soundview Manor, right there, which is now in disrepair. It's been abandoned for at least a year or two, and the owners are suing the city because they claim they did not get a demolition permit in time.
We understand that they have a desire to sell the property, and
they're going to build one house for them to live in and sell the other to make a profit.
They can actually build 4 houses on the property.
In terms of what zoning would allow in that area. There were some moves to have that landmarked, the property or the building.
I think they did that. When I was looking for houses like 30 years ago, we looked at that house. I don't personally think it's any. It was done apparently by a significant architect or something, but I don't think it's necessarily a significant piece of architecture. I don't.
So
Well,
the
everyone
owners,
has taste.
the owners say we would like to tear this down and get on with our business. The city said no, you can't,
Right.
and so now they are suing. Well, okay.
Right. And, you know, it's really been hot this week. And some dogs cooled off yesterday. Tell
Well,
us about it,
actually, John, you know, officially the summer swimming season really came to a close in White Plains on Thursday with a special event from 5 until 7:30 p.m. at the Kittrell Pool in Kittrell Park.
The park is just off Fisher Avenue at Bank Street. Mayor Roach was on hand just to be sure everyone was having a good time. The pool was opened up so our canine friends could take a dip and play around before the water is drained out for the winter. All licensed dogs with owners age 16 and up were welcome to attend. Owners had to produce proof of residency here in White Plains. There was quite a bit of splashing around, with the smaller dogs having a great time in the kiddie pool, which could just as aptly been named the puppy pool for the event. Some of the dog owners got almost as wet as the pooches. I promised the mayor I wouldn't make any remarks about White Plains going to the dogs. And some of the participants had such a great time, they just had to tell their friends, and the whole neighborhood for that matter.
You know, John, this has one
Were
of the...
they protesting the council decision?
I don't know, but that, you know, that's one of the things that makes a city a great place to live in. You know, when you have events like this, and the neighbors come out, they bring the dogs. It was just a lot of fun down there, the city has something else coming up this weekend, which might be of interest to people. On Saturday night, and if you're watching this Friday, it's tomorrow night, they're running a movie downtown. They're going to be closing off Court Street in the evening to run a Star Wars movie. People are invited, you know, to bring the chairs and blankets and what have you to come out and watch the movie. Let's hope the weather cooperates. They are talking about the possibility of thunderstorms for tomorrow night, so you want to check the weather and maybe check the city's website and to see whether the event actually goes on. But it's you know, having a movie outdoors. It's having the dog event. Bring your dogs for a swim at the pool. You know, these kind of things that make the difference between a community, a real fun community to live in, you know, and just a place to hang your hat and call home.
Yeah, and we also don't forget the very low property taxes.
Well, comparatively speaking, compared to
yes.
Scarsdale. But you hang your hat on a radio station on Tuesdays, don't you?
Yes, WVOX at 7:35 a.m. on Bob Barone's Good Morning Westchester. We give you the White Plains report. Who knows, something might happen.
1460 on your AM dial.
Right. John Bailey for Peter Katz and Jim Benerofe. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.